The exhibition that you're standing in is called TWOFOLD. It's a collaborative exhibition between Bronwyn and myself, Marcus Neustetter. We work as a team sometimes, we work as individual artists, and in this case, in this show, we worked with each other's work and looking at each other's work in very particular ways. So what we were playing with here is what happens when you fold a piece of paper, what happens in the little crease when you open the paper, what happens in the world that exists in the hidden parts and in the revealed parts. So for example, the piece that you see here next to me is a series of maps that I drew, an aerial view of different borderlines of contested territories that are rearranged into a new configuration of line work that starts to become an unfolded map of an imaginary territory, a territory that we don't understand, that we've yet to discover, and it comes together with a piece, a video piece, which is produced on the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea that talks about the borders on the other side, the spaces and the territories that we're still trying to discover, and not understanding what happens in that little line on the map, the tiny little line that we draw on a map that is actually extremely wide and holds unknown spaces and territories. And in the same way, the little piece of paper that is folded, that little crease in the middle, holds a whole new world of undiscovered possibilities. So in the process of making the show and preparing it and being in conversation with the curator, Başak Şenova, both Bronwyn and I were excited by the process of making and discovering the work evolving in the twofold process, in the folding and the unfolding and the making of new work. And there's a certain amount of fragility in the work, in the invention of something new, in the search for something. And as you can see by this card house set up here, a lot of the work here is also about constructing, deconstructing and reconstructing. The idea of building something that then becomes a new image, a new statement, and hopefully something that will evoke a sense of fragility and represent a little bit of where we are in today's time. And so the curator Başak and ourselves started to have a really interesting debate and discussion about the potential and the possibilities of how these works relate to the space, obviously the context of this part of Cyprus and the relationship to the intention of the gallery, the intention of the space. And I think they all work together quite beautifully in a question of, do we need to frame the work? Can we leave it exposed as paper? Can we allow the audience to feel a little bit of what the artist is making? Can we allow the texture and the surprise of the work to come through? And can we allow the work to be fragile, just like we are as humans?
So in this exhibition, TWOFOLD, by myself, Bronwyn and Marcus Neustetter, we've meditated on the action of folding, what it is to be in the process of making as artists. Rather than focusing on the final product, we're interested in this constant meditation of action. And in much of Marcus's work, there's an interest in the border, the lines that determine our identities, the ways in which we come to be who we are as individuals in our time and place. Similarly, I'm interested in how we occupy our bodies, and I begin with the architecture of our bodies. Here I have a piece that's called Of Vertebrate. It is a piece that is a collection of mammal bone, and I often talk about the human as the vertical beast. This verticality in our bodies that determines so much of how we have evolved. The way in which our brain functions has to do with the length and the angle of our spine. The reason that we are born so premature, for example, and in comparison to other mammals, and why our brain has that time and space as infants to grow. And a lot of that has to do with language. It has to do with the ways in which language leads to categorization. And categorization leads to identity. It leads to a sense of self and therefore a sense of other. So in this extension of the vertebrate, this extension of the spine, and I also talk in this exhibition and other works about the pelvis, particularly the female pelvis, which is the passage through which all of us enter this world. We go from one world in our mother's bodies into this world. I find multiple kinds of pelvises, grammars and symbols, languages in the action of folding. Something that we do as humans due to our spines and our pelvises, something that is natural to us. It is what gives us our architecture. And so in all of these works, you see this continuous action of folding. It is the blot, the ink blot. What I love about this as an artist is that I don't have full control. I can control one half of it. But once I close the page and I rub, it is out of my control. There's a kind of a disorder, a chaos, an unknown. And when I open up, there's a surprise. And I'm always seeking the unknown and the surprise as an artist. If I knew exactly what I was making at all points, it would no longer be interesting to me. And I suspect it would not be that interesting to an audience. So this is about an unfolding of unknown territories, of unknown bodies, of unknown grammars, of unknown languages, and potentially unknown possibilities for how we go about pursuing different ways of understanding self in relation to other.